Well, today, the 1st of February 2023, we're going to take a close look at the UK and Norway, what's been happening of late. And you can see from the titles here, we're covering a lot of UK stories and an awful lot of Norway stories. So to start, the UK, we're looking forward to Benriach. It's a well drilling West of Shetlands in block 206 4A, and it's due to spud in late first quarter or into the second quarter. Now, this is operated by TotalEnergies with a 50% equity, partners Kistos and Rockrose with 25% each. Now, it's targeting an early Cretaceous gas play. The claim is that there's up to 638 BCF of recoverable resources. That seems a bit on the high side, but hey, good luck. Transocean Barents semi-submersible has been linked with the work. It's 110 days work. So Benriach lies north of Cragganmore. On the map here, you can see it's on a structural nose, and from this amplitude, which is an extraction of this event here, this blue event, plus or minus 30 milliseconds, it seems to fade away and die out as you go up the structure into this region here, but it's well pronounced in this region. Now, don't quite understand what's going on with the volcanics underneath. Seems quite complicated, and I'm not sure what effect that will have on the overlying structure, its deposition and subsequent drape. It's going to drill, and we wish TotalEnergies every success with that well. Here's the entry that we have for Benriach, our TROVE entry. I'd like to move on and just talk briefly about Glendronach. Now, Glendronach here is located underneath the Yggdrasil gas field. Now, this is the Greater Lagan area, and we've done a video on this. There's a link somewhere up on the top right. Here you can see that all of these four gas fields tie in and they go to the Shetland gas plant here. Now, the idea would be that Glendronach, it's a discovery to date, and it would be tied in. The well was drilled from the Yggdrasil template. It was a deeper target. The appraisal well was unsuccessful. Kistos state in a recent press release that the FID is expected late 2023. It's due to be a one-well development, and essentially they're going to re-enter and complete the existing 206 4A4 well. We'll see what happens there. Another story that caught our eye was Golden Eagle. Now, this is the production profile for Golden Eagle here, starting around about 2014, late 2014, and you can see ramping up and then on a decline. Something's happened in this period of time here. I don't quite know what's been involved. It's produced an oil equivalent of about 121 million barrels, so it's done very, very well. Since coming back online after this outage here, the oil rate is plummeting, the water rate is increasing significantly. It is a low relief structure, so there's little standoff from the aquifer. Golden Eagle, and here is the complex offshore. It's entering its late life. Quick turn to Maria and Quattro, fourth time round for Neil. The Maria is this small field here. It sits in between sort of Dumbarton GP3 territory and, of course, Piper Bravo here on the Piper field. The numbers here, and this is based on a Gaffney Klein CPR done for United Oil and Gas, who sold to Quattro, and you can see, looking at in terms of oil alone, 3, 6 and 11, it's a struggle because it's quite a distant tie back to Piper, so it would really have to come in at the high end. There's still a race to be done to actually make this all happen. So subscribe, give us a thumbs up, ring the bell. It's only by subscribing you're going to get informed each time we come out with a new video, so please do that. Shown here is the Southwark platform, a gas platform in the southern North Sea, and if we look at it on the map here, here's Southwark, and it's tying in, and it's part of the Saturn Banks development, the phase 1 of the Saturn Banks, which also includes the Blythe and Elgood fields that have been brought on production. If we look at the production profile, Blythe and Elgood, the first two fields to come online, came online in March 2022, so we're coming up for the first anniversary of this field. There have been a few ups and downs, probably a few commissioning issues, but essentially, rather worryingly, the production profile here has been essentially coming down very, very quickly. Now, there always was a concern with these fields. They are quite small. Southwark had some plumbing issues, and there was a subsea valve which required depressurization of the line, and that got sorted out late last year. So we do know that Blythe is cutting water, which on an oil field is okay, but on a gas field it can be terminal. Then a recent announcement in 2023 that the Southwark A2 well, it's producing only 4.2 million standard cubic feet of gas a day. but also producing 1,632 barrels of water per day. Ongoing studies trying to understand it, but it's a very, very disappointing result. Plans and the intent of this, well, here's Blythe cutting a lot of water, here's Elgood tied back through it into this manifold, and then back to the beach here at Bacton. And then, of course, this line here is now up and running, and that's Southwark. But we've seen a very disappointing result. Now, there is potential to actually expand this network with this northern hub, the central hub, and the southern hub. But these have got to individually stand on their own 2 feet and make sound economic sense before more money is committed to those. A lot to be done to help make the Saturn Banks into the great success it was always intended to be. Has been helped, of course, by the gas price that has been very, very high of late. But, of course, now the gas prices seem to have gone back to sort of pre-COVID levels. Now we are awaiting news on Pensacola. We do have a video out on our YouTube channel. And so if you search for TROVE Pensacola on YouTube, you should find this video. And in 13 minutes, we'll give you the background and the story so far. It is testing. We hope to cover that in a future release of Trove News. I'd like to now move on to the 33rd licensing round. Nick Richardson and his team are in the process of evaluating all the applications that have come through the door. There's been 76 companies. They've bid on 258 blocks or part blocks. That's 115 bids, which is a good number. It closed on the 12th of January and anticipate there's going to be sort of 2 to 3 months evaluation. We expect that awards will be made in the second quarter 2023, so watch this space. In our view, this is the sort of last chance for the UK North Sea to secure an option for the future for new hydrocarbon reserves ahead of the next UK general election. Now, parties are taking some quite radical views and stances on what they want to do with the oil and gas. But there is going to be a huge energy shortfall across Europe. There is one already with the Ukraine-Russia war and the cut-off of supplies from Russia. If the UK doesn't fill it, well, others are queuing up to expand their production, and they will fill that gap, and they'll make a lot of money. It's kind of more efficient than bringing supplies in from across the globe. The supply chain, the rig owners and drilling companies, etc., will be looking for many firm wells, but that's an unlikely outcome in our opinion. The timing of the windfall tax with a marginal tax rate of some 75% hasn't really helped at this time for the license round, and it's very difficult for companies to make large commitments when there is this backdrop and uncertainty about where the level of tax is going to be in the future. But rather than looking for their checkbooks, a lot of operators in the UK are looking for their passports. They're talking about cutting budgets and job losses on the way. So what has happened in the UK has not been a tremendous success story. If we turn to Norway, we can compare and contrast. Norway had some tax incentives. In a recent Rystad Energy study, 22 Norwegian projects were approved in 2022. 35 projects in the last 30 months. Now they're talking about up to 2.5 billion barrels of oil equivalent resources are going to be unlocked by these projects, and a capital spend of some $42.7 billion. Now, that's fantastic. The aim is to keep the production high up to 2030 and beyond. And, Norway's aiming to be the stopgap energy supplier for Europe when, of course, we've lost the supplies from Russia. In the report, Rystad mentioned that it's the Norwegian tax incentives that were cited as a reason for the success. Here's a look at Norway, and pause the video. Here are the exploration successes in the Barents Sea, in the Norwegian Sea and down into the North Sea. Norwegian production. Well, we see that the expectation here is that production levels will be increasing over the next few years. There's going to be a sort of secondary peak here in around about 2025 and then decline, but this is tremendous. And this is in millions of barrels of oil equivalent per day, over 4 million barrels of oil equivalent per day. Already in 2023, we have a discovery in Norway, the Obelix upflank. This is a well recently announced as being a success. It's reported to have encountered 3 moderate to good quality sands in the Springer Formation, which is an upper Cretaceous reservoir. The 2A well proved up a 12-meter gas column in the uppermost sand with moderate to good reservoir quality, and all sands in both wells were in pressure communication, so it looks like there's a 29-meter gas column. Equinor operate this block. It's PL 1128. It was awarded in the APA 2020 round. They have 70% equity and operate Toro 20%, Vintage Aldea 10%. This find could well be commercial with 2 to 11 billion cubic meters of recoverable gas. That's the equivalent of around about 13 to 69 million barrels of oil equivalent. It lies just some 23 kilometers south of the Erpa field. Looking back at 2022 from this really good summary report from the Norwegian Petroleum Directorate, the NPD, and you can see here's all the new field developments that are being considered and some projects that are some expansions of existing fields. Pause the video to look at the details in here, the APA 2022 license round results. The biggest interest has been in Quad 35 area. The consultation is going on to extend the APA area to include Barents Sea and the Norwegian Sea. So here's the location of the discovery here. This is Vega, and you can see Fram Nord over to the east. This is what it looks like. So it's an injectite here. So sand's been injected. There's an oil water contact. It's intersected a gas column, an oil column. So here's the Lotus opportunity, which is going to be the subject of drilling shortly. Now this is the round, and you can see Kveikje is located here. And all of these blocks have been awarded to a number of companies in and around. This area is going to see a lot of activity chasing this particular play. Now, there has been talk of waning interest in the Norwegian continental shelf, and it's kind of based on this graph here where you can see the number of licenses has certainly been in sort of decline since 2018. But the number of companies that have been involved has stayed around about a similar level. But this only looks at the APA rounds only, which are the licenses in the mature areas, not the full exploration rounds. The volumes found, well, this is the 2022 scorecard. You can see that there were fewer volumes both gas and oil found in 2022. The number of discoveries was also down, around about 12 here. You can see this is the distribution of those finds up and down the region. I want to just turn our attention though, there's been some very interesting stories. Here's a 251017S well, which is just drilling here to the west of the Hans discovery, and it's on the Gudrun Terrace. It's targeting the Middle Jurassic Hugin sand, currently drilling ahead on that, so we'll be looking out and wishing them well for success in that well. This is a close-up where you can see the location of the well here. In the Utsira High in Gudrun Terrace, there's been an announcement that there's going to be significant activity, and this is AkerBP. They've awarded Technip FMC an EPIC contract. Now, EPIC stands for Engineering, Procurement, Installation and Construction, but you rearrange the letters. And it's going to be a contract for 3 subsea developments on the Utsira High. So they're going to do Solvig 2, Trollhagen and Simra. You see, if you get simple names, I can actually pronounce them. Subsea production systems, controls, pipelines and control umbilicals are going to be tied back to either the Ivar Aasen or the Edvard Grieg platforms. Another area, and this was previously the area known as NOAKA, and it's now known as Yggdrasil. You can see here, this is AkerBP again, and they're going to go ahead and develop a lot of these satellites, and it's kind of located sort of east or northeast of Frigg. Let's have a look at the transition to net zero, and this is the prediction of future activity from the NPD, and it looks at oil and gas production in Norway. So here's the current level, around about 240 million standard cubic meters of oil equivalent, and you can see that by 2050 in the expectation case it's going to be around about a third of that. It's around about 80 million cubic meters of oil equivalent. It doesn't actually state in this report what the consumption level is going to be, but there's certainly a lot of ground for renewables to fill that shortfall. Now, as we transition to net zero, The MPD talked about, here are the offshore wind, the CCS or carbon capture and storage opportunities that are being looked at. Wind is the only one of these that really is going to produce energy, and it's got to make up for quite a shortfall because the oil production will be declining over the next 25 years to significant levels on current projections. Having a look briefly at Seismic Acquisition in 2022, and this was a report put together by Enverus, and you can see that the list for Norway is very, very extensive. Lots of 2D, 3D and 4D shot. The list for the UK is looking a little bit slim. Seismic, pretty much the start of the oil and gas cycle, so without new data, we don't get any new ideas and we make little progress in exploration. We've been looking at a lot of the Kistos assets as we've gone through this, and they pointed out in a recent press release that in the Netherlands there's been a windfall tax over there, but it's actually it's on gas, not on oil, and indeed the Orion project they're involved in is oil. And well, this is our entry from TROVE. You can see we've got a huge amount of information on this and every other oil field and discovery in the North Sea. So please get in touch. Well, what next for us? We're going to be doing a feature on Norway, following up on this news output, and then we're going to have a look at carbon capture and storage, a global review. And of course, we're going to be covering news from all the global hotspots. So thank you for watching. Hope to see you back on our channel before too long. Bye for now.